Have you ever woken up and just felt off? Like really off? Today, we're diving into a super relatable story about navigating a sudden, unexplained mood that feels less like a feeling and more like a full-on personality takeover.
And it all kicks off with this line, because it's so true. We hear all about the other stuff, right? The hot flashes, the weight gain, knees that make a Rice Krispie sound every time you stand up. But nobody, and I mean nobody, prepares you for the day you wake up and just hate everyone. For no reason at all.
So, let's get into it. Let's meet this unwelcome visitor. The author gives it a name, Grumpy. And oh boy, Grumpy doesn't just knock on the door. It moves right in, throws out all your old furniture, and completely redecorates your personality overnight.
I mean, it is such a bizarre feeling, isn't it? You open your eyes, and your first thought is just pure irritation at the world for existing. The sun is too bright, the kettle is way too loud, and those birds chirping outside, yeah, they really need to take it down a notch. You haven't even had a conversation yet, but you're already completely exhausted by everyone.
And the change is stark. The author says her former self was all sweetness and light, the kind of person who's patient, warm, understanding. And the new self? Well, the new self is someone who gets personally offended by the sound of a humming refrigerator. The transformation is just total.
And this quote, wow, it just perfectly nails the sheer intensity of this feeling. This isn't just being a little bit annoyed. This is a simmering, bubbling rage where the line between being a functional human and, a major incident feels terrifyingly thin. It's like you're constantly walking on a razor's edge.
So, what does a grump attack actually look like day to day? Let's take a look at what happens when Grumpy is sitting in the driver's seat, especially during those tiny everyday moments.
Okay, picture this. The author's husband asks a totally normal, innocent question about where his keys are, and on the inside, this. A full-blown, screaming, all-caps meltdown. It is a completely out-of-proportion explosion of fury that thankfully stays inside her head. But what actually comes out of her mouth is this. Now, it's still sharp, okay? It's sarcastic, it's dripping with annoyance. But it's just a tiny little flicker of the absolute inferno that's raging on the inside. And that gap, right there, that's the whole game, trying to keep a lid on an emotion that really, really wants to burn the whole house down.
And oh, it doesn't stop there. The irrationality is a real theme. Her husband offers her a coffee, she snaps back that she wants tea. And then she gets furious at him when he dares to ask which one she actually wants. It's like living in a communication minefield where Grumpy has rigged every conversation to explode.
And then you have them, the two most dangerous words in the English language. God forbid anyone tells her to calm down. She says this phrase should come with like a 10-meter safety warning because it instantly turns her into Al Pacino in Scarface. Because in her head, this is her being calm.
So, naturally, when you feel like your entire personality has been hijacked, what's the first thing you do? You try to fix it, right? You try to troubleshoot the problem, find a cure, and get back to being your old self.
So she does what any of us would do. She runs through the standard, am I a monster, or do I just need checklist? Am I hungry? Am I dehydrated? Am I just really, really tired? The usual suspects for any bad mood.
And the result of all this self-care? Well, here's the punchline. Nothing changed. She just became a well-hydrated, well-rested grump. This clearly wasn't some surface-level issue that a granola bar could fix. This was something running much, much deeper.
All right, so when the simple fixes don't work, you got to bring in the next suspect in the lineup, hormones. As the author points out, they're super convenient, right? They take all the blame, and they never, ever argue back. But even that, it just didn't feel like the whole story.
And this is where the story really takes a turn. This is the big reveal, the moment where a pretty profound realization changes absolutely everything. It turns out the grumpiness wasn't the problem. It was a symptom of something else entirely.
So after you rule out being hangry, being exhausted, and just blaming it all on hormones, you're left with the big question. If it's none of those things, then what on earth is this all-consuming mood really about?
The answer, and it's probably not what you're expecting, is grief. Not the grief of losing a person, but the grief of losing a version of herself. And this is the unexpected diagnosis that finally makes all that rage make sense.
But grief for what exactly? Well, it's grief for the loss of ease. It's mourning for a body that just did what it was told, for energy that used to just show up without a fight. And for that version of herself that had effortless patience, who didn't have to psych herself up just to deal with the minor annoyances of a normal day?
You know, once she had that realization, everything changed. Her whole relationship with Grumpy completely transformed. So this last part is all about that powerful shift in perspective, from fighting a mood to finally actually listening to it.
So Grumpy gets a whole new definition. It wasn't some enemy force that needed to be defeated. It was a messenger, carrying really important information from her own body and mind that up until now she had been totally ignored. And what was that message Grumpy was trying so hard to deliver? Well, it was basically a giant stop sign. It was her body screaming, "Enough!" It was a command to slow down, to stop people-pleasing, and to stop pushing her own needs aside just to make other people comfortable. And with this new perspective comes a whole new playbook for dealing with it. Instead of fighting the grump, she just lets it pass through. She makes a conscious effort not to take it out on other people, no hostages, and she puts some smart guardrails in place, like avoiding any big decisions or, and this is very wise, not replying to any messages until the storm passes.
And that kind of leaves us with a big question to ask ourselves. The next time that unexplained wave of irritation washes over you, maybe it's not just a bad mood. Maybe it's a messenger. So, what is your grumpiness trying to tell you? And let's be real, sometimes it really is just telling you to have a snack.